Hello everyone. Welcome back to our video series on heart attack prevention. Last week, we delved the impact of the insurance executive's decision to block access to calcium scoring, putting millions of Americans in a virtual holding camp waiting for a heart attack to happen. The American College of Cardiology and the American Heart Association agree that Framingham Risk Score, or the updated ASCVD risk score version, is inaccurate when the score is between 5% to 20%, the so-called intermediate risk group, and recommend coronary calcium scoring for those individuals. These recommendations dated back in 2012, and the insurance executives are steadfast in continuing to deny coverage for calcium scoring. Video 4 has Part 1 and Part 2 primarily focusing on calcium scoring. This Video 5 is Part 3. Many older adults never had a heart attack risk assessment, an important first step. We will examine the Framingham Risk Scoring method and why both the American Heart Association and American College of Cardiology should consider expanding calcium scoring outside the intermediate risk group, and why both organizations, presumed leaders in heart attack prevention, should join us pushing the calcium scoring coverage for all Americans who can benefit from it. Since access to calcium scoring is denied, what is the other option? To win the war against heart disease, we need strategic planning, an effective weapon, and the ability to identify the targets accurately. We have an effective combination of weapons which can be dispensed to patients at high risk for heart attack that can stop a heart attack before it happens. These medications are covered by insurance and will be the subject of the next video. We can't win any war if we can't identify our targets accurately. This video is about identifying those targets accurately. The targets are those Americans who are yet asymptomatic but are most likely to suffer a heart attack in the next 10 years because they already have silent plaques. There are two methods of determining the risk of having a heart attack within 10 years. One is based on cardiac risk factors. The other is based on the detection of absence or presence of plaques by a quick CT scan without contrast injection. We can only win the war against heart disease if we know who to treat, how aggressively to treat them, and who do not need treatment. The intensity of medical treatment depends on the severity of risk. The greater the risk, the more intense the medical treatment. Before we proceed, I want to give an idea of the timeline of the development of coronary plaques or coronary atherosclerosis. Atherosclerosis is a very slow process. From normal artery to an artery with the beginning of early plaque changes, to an artery with plaque rupture takes many years to decades. Atherosclerosis is an inflammatory process with several stages. The development is progressive but intermittent. Between the very early stage to plaque rupture, we find the stage when calcification begins. Calcification is a normal component of any chronic inflammatory process. Calcium has two special characteristics that make it useful for our purpose. It is detectable by X-ray and it accumulates inside the plaques. Let us continue with the two ways of identifying the correct targets for medical treatment for heart attack prevention. The first method is the one widely recommended by the American Heart Association and American College of Cardiology, using a combination of cardiac risk factors called the Framingham Risk Assessment. We've been using Framingham Risk Scoring since the 1990s. It's incredible to think that while medicine has advanced leaps and bounds in other areas, we're still relying on a tool from 3 decades ago to assess heart attack risk. There are many updated versions, each claiming to be better, but all versions share the same fundamental limitations. This tool can't answer two critical questions that patients want to know, and physicians need an answer. Are significant plaques present or not? If present, how much? This vagueness is unacceptable in modern medicine where we want more precision. The Framingham Risk Score, and all its many versions, is an estimate of average risk for a population, but may not accurately predict risk for an individual. There is significant variability in cardiovascular risk among individuals with similar risk factor profiles, and the Framingham Risk Score does not capture this individual variation effectively. Here is an example using Tom, male, 53 years old, systolic blood pressure 145, taking blood pressure medication, non-smoker, not diabetic, HDL cholesterol slightly low at 35, total cholesterol 190. His Framingham Risk Score is 21%, which is high risk for heart attack within the next 10 years, and statin therapy is recommended. The Framingham Risk Score includes only a limited number of risk factors, and there are other important factors such as family history, obesity, physical activity, and certain biomarkers that are not included in the calculation. This can lead to underestimation or overestimation of risk in certain individuals. Here is a simulated dialogue between the proponents of Framingham Risk Score, the American College of Cardiology and the American Heart Association on the left, and Tom and his primary care physician on the right.
Tom, with your score of 21%, you are at high risk for heart attack. You need to take a statin.
I don't want to take a statin unless I need to. Do I have plaques in my coronary arteries?
We don't know. Maybe.
I want to know if I am really at high risk. I will get my calcium score.
We don't recommend it if your score is already over 20%. It will cost you $100.
I will pay for it.
Framingham risk scoring does not detect the presence of the disease, whereas calcium scoring does. Calcium scoring enables physicians to practice precision medicine. Tom is 0 and therefore very low risk. The emphasis is lifestyle management, weight control, healthier diet, regular exercise, stress management. Statin is not indicated. Repeat calcium score in 3 to 5 years. John's Framingham Risk Score is 13.8% intermediate risk. Both American Heart Association and the American College of Cardiology recommend calcium scoring to add more clarity in this situation. John's calcium score is 746, very high risk. In addition to healthier lifestyle, LDL cholesterol goal is less than 55, LDL particle number goal is less than 700, combination statin therapy with ezetimibe, low-dose aspirin, ramipril or valsartan. This is not just outdated science, it is about social justice. By denying access to calcium scoring, we are perpetuating the wide disparities in healthcare. The haves get life-saving early detection, while the have-nots are kept in the dark, both figuratively and literally. There are millions of Americans with undiagnosed coronary plaque buildup in a virtual holding camp, not receiving optimal medical therapy, just waiting for a heart attack to happen. Some states are already recognizing the gravity of the situation and taking action. Texas and New Mexico, for example, have passed laws mandating insurance coverage for calcium scoring tests. These states have chosen to take matters into their own hands and advocate for early coronary plaque detection. They're leading the way, and other states are now following suit, driven by the alarming rates of heart attack and cardiac death in their populations, not to mention the astronomical healthcare costs associated with late-stage care. We all agree that early detection is the key to save more lives from cancer, so why aren't we applying the same logic to heart disease? Calcium scoring is inaccurate not just for the Framingham Intermediate Risk Group but also in the Framingham Low Risk and High Risk Group. Knowing and seeing one's calcium score significantly improves patient compliance with medical treatment, which then improves clinical outcomes. This is the updated version of Framingham Risk Scoring, which still retains the same limitations, unable to answer the two critical questions as already discussed previously. Note what it says. Consider calcium scoring if the decision regarding statin therapy is uncertain even in the presence of risk-enhancing factors. There will always be some uncertainty unless those two critical questions are answered. Are there plaques or not? If present, how much? The Framingham risk scoring method is updated every few years. In the future, it will be downgraded to a secondary tool after coronary calcium scoring. This should happen sooner than later to save more lives, reduce chronic cardiac illnesses, and reduce healthcare costs. Any reservations in the past have been solved. Cost. Previously, calcium scoring by electron beam tomography cost about $400. Now, using a fast CT scan, the cost is down to $100 or even less. Radiation exposure. The radiation dose has been reduced to 1 millisievert or less. Very safe, on par with a mammogram. The really remaining obstacle is the steadfast denial of health insurance companies, including Medicare, to cover for calcium scoring. Most patients will need calcium scoring only once or twice during their lifetime. Calcium scoring improves patient compliance to therapy but also physician compliance to perform heart attack and stroke risk assessment initially between the age of 40 to 50. As we wrap up today, I want to personally invite you to join the Save Your Heart campaign's army of heart attack warriors. Visit our website, www.saveyourheartcampaign.com. Read our open letter, watch our companion video, and most importantly, share this vital information with family, friends, coworkers, and also your primary care physicians. We've fought heart disease for decades, but now we have the tools to win. But before we can win the war against heart disease, we need to fight the insurance executives to cover calcium scoring. Thank you for watching.